Okay, in the top three now, we have Four Flies on Grey Velvet. This was Argento's last movie in the Animals trilogy, and it is, in my opinion, his best movie from that trilogy. This movie, and I'm kind of throwing this word around quite a bit here, but this is Argento's most bizarre film, even more bizarre than Phantom of the Opera, which was bizarre in a comical way. This is more bizarre in an intense, classic Giallo kind of film, and the twist. Most of Argento's films, I don't see the twist coming at the end, and this was just beautifully shot, especially the ending when slow motion. I'm not gonna give away what it is, and has an interesting plot device concerning the four flies, and it's probably Argento's most I don't know. I felt really connected to the characters. I think Argento did a really good job on the characters, especially the protagonist. And if I am remembering correctly, this is the only film in which there is a sex scene in Argento's films. And it's really passionate scene there. Highly recommended if you can get your hands on it. Some interesting scenes to note is one where a woman is in a park and you see the time passing in that park, and then she realizes she's being stalked, and that's really intense and claustrophobic, and it kind of reminds me of the dog chasing scene in Tenebre. Okay, so number 2, you may have noticed that I have not used any ties yet in this list, as I did in my previous directors ranked and reviewed, which was on Werner Herzog, because in my opinion all of these movies were kind of either above or below each other, and the same goes for these top 2. You either see either Deep Red or Suspiria in the top 2. It's either one or the other, and in my opinion there is no tie. One is better than the other, but only by like a tiny margin. And in the number 2 we have Deep Red. Number 1 we have Suspiria. So talking about Deep Red first. Deep Red is first of all, if you're gonna watch Deep Red, please watch the extended version, which has lots of character development scenes, and really adds to the atmosphere of the movie. Deep Red is quite the ride. It's quite the movie. It's highly recommended to watch as just an Italian giallo. If you just want to see a giallo, it doesn't even have to do with Argento. It's one of his best made films, one of his most well made, and there are some plot holes, but like I said before, with plot incoherency, they kind of work within the framework of the films that Argento makes, because they're all almost kind of dreamlike with nightmarish logic. And so anyways, this film is very intense. It keeps you guessing. Lots of amazing scenes. The best soundtrack in an Argento film. It even beats Suspiria's soundtrack, which is also phenomenal. And the soundtrack is by the band called Goblin, who I am trying to kind of growing interested in after watching all these films, and would like to hear some of their other work. Anyways, it's standard Giallo fare, but it is just good. It's quite on the creepy side, as is Four Flies on Grey Velvet, I might add. But definitely not as creepy and suspenseful and atmospheric and beautiful as Suspiria. This is the film that I started watch. This is the first Argento film I have watched, and it remains my favorite Argento film. It's the beginning of his Freeing Mothers trilogy, and I don't want to talk too much about the movie itself, but more about the feelings it evokes. This film is probably one of the only films to evoke feelings of terror and suspense as you watch it unfold. And it's one of it's known for its interesting color scheme, and yeah, it's just a great movie. I can bet you that you'd always find this movie on a top 100 or even maybe top 25 horror movies of all time. It's a joy to watch, and like I said before, a brilliant score and tons of memorable scenes. Like, the whole movie is a memorable scene. Thought it was laughably bad because of the first death scene, which is, I still believe, is quite funny in a way, as it involves a woman with her face being pressed up against glass, making odd faces, and is quite over the top. But it's one of those nightmarish scenes of Argento that's his trademark. And another Argento trademark, which you will see in a lot of his movies, is glass. And people, the victims, having their heads crash through glass. Another thing about Deep Red, which I would like to add, which I forgot to add, is that it is probably, while Tenebre is probably his goriest, Deep Red is probably his cruelest. One particular scene in that movie, which is considered one of his most cruel, is actually played homage to in John Carpenter's Halloween 2. Speaking of which, the music, the theme of Halloween 2, actually is a little bit of a homage to the Goblin theme. Not the Goblin theme, the theme by Goblin in Deep Red, the movie. So, don't have much to say without any spoiling any scenes or plot lines. So, I'm just gonna leave it there. Thank you for watching.
Okay, bye.
Oh, hold it a minute. Sorry. Does this name ring a bell? Villa Rapiti.
Nope, never heard the name before.
Okay, bye.
Why?